Okay, so now we're going to move on to working with the OpenTofu or just tofu or TF, that package. And what we want to do is we want to start off reading in the config file in the same way that Python does, essentially just replicating this kind of code. And so what we're going to do that is we're going to create a variables.tf file. And here we're just going to declare locals and config equals YAML decode file config.yaml. There are probably more efficient ways to do this. Yeah, I'm by no means an expert on Terraform or OpenTofu, so this is just the way that I've become accustomed to doing it, just to be able to read in the file and look at the various parameters. Next up, we want to actually create the main Terraform file, everything that we're going to use for. And here, this is where we declare the things that we're going to need is to define a provider. We're going to need to zip a Google Cloud function file that we are going to write on our side when we get to it. We're going to need to create a Google Cloud Storage object in a new storage bucket, and then declare the function and assign it for unauthorized access. In other words, anyone on the internet can be able to click on the URL for the function and it will execute the Google Cloud function. The first step is to define the provider, which is going to be Google. Our project is going to be the local config.project ID. Our credentials are going to sit in the service account key, so that's going to refer to that service account file there. Our region is going to be that region there. We're then going to declare the service accounts that we need, and this is going to be done in a kind of for loop, as you'll see now. So we're going to declare the resource that we need, which is going to be Google project service. And even though these names are populated by default, we can probably just assign them for good practice in case you've got multiple of the same resource here. So the way that you declare a variable in Tofu is you give it the resource and then its custom name here. That's even when you're referencing to it as well. So it's going to look into these APIs here. In our config file, this list. And project is going to be local project ID. The service is going to be each key. And we don't want to disable on destroy. We're just going to test this out to see if this works. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to open up a new terminal. And we're just going to say tofu init. And you'll see that it's going to start downloading everything that it needs on this side here. So this is referring to the various Google resources that's already been coded up by HashiCorp. for GCP. Okay, so it says tofu has been successfully initiated. And what we can do is we can just do, we'll leave the tofu plan for a later stage. We want to be able to create these service accounts and the function all in one go. And yeah, I almost forgot. We just need to create a name for this. We can just say, so it's the Tofu Google Cloud Platform APIs. So we've just set up Tofu, and it's installed the various files that it needs. It's created lock files, and it can start creating various other files. We can add them to the git ignore at a later stage, but what we're going to do now is we're going to create a Python package that'll act as the Google Cloud Functions package. And it'll just be something simple. It'll probably just connect to Wikipedia or example.com, and it'll just display the result of that to the endpoint, to the end client. So it's going to be very lightweight on our side. What we're going to want to do is just create a new package, or just a new folder. We're just going to call it function. This will be sitting on the outside here. And what we're going to want to add is a .gcloudignore. This is going to be blank for us, but we can always add to it at a later time as the function becomes larger. We're going to need a requirements.txt file, and this is going to describe the Python packages that the Google Cloud Run engine is going to need. So we're going to need Flask and requests. And in an ideal world, these are the only two that we'll need. But there is a small error happening on the Python 3.12 environment. So we're just going to add an additional package called functions framework. And this will need to be version 3.4.0. This underline is just saying that it's not installed on our side, but we don't need to really worry about that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, we're going to create a main.py file. And this is just going to be a very simple Python file. We're just going to create a simple request and response package using Flask. So from Flask, we want to import make response and request. Request is just going to be for the type hinting. So we're just going to call it receiver, and it's going to take in a request, which is a Flask request. We're going to determine the request method. And if the method is a get request, we're going to maybe just read example.com. So we're going to just request that. Requests.get. And our response, let's just say functions response is the example response.text. Again, this is completely arbitrary, but can change it however you want to. Return make response response. And if the method is not a GET request, we're going to return make response unsupported request method. So this would be post requests or anything else. That's all it is to it in terms of the Google Cloud core function itself. It's literally, what, 11 lines plus 3 for the requirements.txt, so very, very simple. We're just going to add this now to Terraform, be able to upload it and give it unauthorized access.